Welcome to Lashback. I'm Natalyan.
And I'm Phoebe. And today we are going to be talking about aging disgracefully. What does that mean, Nat?
Well, we have our thoughts on growing old disgracefully because we all talk about growing old gracefully, but you and me really want to talk about growing old disgracefully. So just a simple, quick Google search. I'm just going to read this to you, and I want your thoughts on it. So, aging disgracefully is a phrase that refers to not accepting the aging process in a positive way and may imply behaviours that are considered inappropriate or embarrassing for someone's age. However, it can also mean living life on your own terms and being authentic to yourself, which is the bit I like. So, what's your thoughts on growing old disgracefully and what it means to you, Phoebe?
I think we're in the land of expectations here, aren't we? By the age of 20, you have. By the age of 30, you have. By the age of 40, you have. And of course, I haven't done most of those things that I was supposed to have done according to societal expectations of age. So maybe that makes me disgraceful. I don't think it's disgraceful. I think more on the side of just doing what I want and living from my heart, and that meaning that I'm who I am today and I don't have the things that somebody of my age should have had by now. And I also think there's something about being a woman. Am I supposed to have done this? Am I supposed to be behaving like this? I'm supposed to wear these sorts of clothes now. Mutton dressed as lamb is something my mum always holds herself to, which I kind of refuse to buy into. Not that, I'm showing a lot of skin or whatever, but I think it's about doing what you want because that's who you are, rather than doing what you're supposed to because that's where you were born or whatever you were born into or whatever you've chosen as a life path. You can change your life path. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree. Things change every decade, right, for different generations. But you're right. Society says that you should be this by 20, this by 30, this by
Married.
40, married, own your own house, not be renting anymore, not go
Be the
out as
boss.
late anymore. Yeah, exactly. And for me, I don't think I've ever followed the norm anyway. When I go out, I might go out in dungarees and a hat. We all know I love hats.
Not the hat.
And you have exactly Nat the Hat. And I tend to do what I want to do. And I think that, growing old disgracefully, I'm using the word disgracefully because that's added on to the gracefully. And for me, gracefully doesn't necessarily mean, it means that you're doing things by society. That's kind of my interpretation. But growing old disgracefully is about being your authentic self, doing what you want to do. If I want to become a lawyer at 45, I will become a lawyer at 45.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I haven't missed the boat. If I want to suddenly start being a saxophonist, professional guitar player, or learn an absolutely new skill, that is what you should do. And
Yeah,
that's what I
nothing's
think you
stopping
should
you
do.
really.
Yeah.
But then grace is a really interesting word because
Yeah.
grace for me is, I think of swans, just going through life without necessarily, they make their path in the water, but they're not causing waves. And I think grace is a good thing to hold in life, because we don't want to be overly impactful on other people, but also make the waves. Can I show you my t-shirt?
Go for it. Go for it. I love it. Fight like a girl.
Yeah, dude. I just started a master's in songwriting. The
Yeah.
music industry would tell me I'm way too old to even be considering a career in music, but I've been writing and performing my own songs since I was
You've already got
13,
a
and
career in music.
nothing's gonna stop me continuing to do that. And I wanted to study it. I trained as a yoga teacher when I was 37 with a load of 22-year-olds. Nothing's gonna stop me
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
follow what I'm interested in.
Absolutely. And I moved to America recently in my 40s.
Yeah.
Changed complete location in my 40s. I've started a new venture in my 40s. I'm doing a new music venture in my 40s. We've both been musicians our whole life. But you're right, it's, you can do, we could be chart toppers in our 40s. There's nothing
Yeah.
stopping us. And I think that you need
Apart
to,
from
you know,
misogyny.
yeah, we need to, there's no way that you're going to be able to do new things or kind of break that mold if you don't believe it yourself. Do what you want to do and the rest will kind of come. I think that that's something that I've definitely learned myself, is that stop thinking about what other people are going to think and go ahead and do it. And the more authentic you are and the more passionate you are about it and just creating your own path, it will all work out.
You couldn't pay me to be in my 20s again.
No, it's funny you say that, because
No,
I
thank
recently
you.
turned 45 last week. And when people ask my age, I found myself saying 21. And then I was like, I don't want to be 21. I couldn't think of anything worse.
It was
But
awful.
I didn't like the fact that they laughed their heads off when I said that, though. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, all right, don't laugh that much. It's not that funny. But I don't want to be 21. I don't know where this 21 thing comes from. It's obviously to do with being an adult and that. But I don't want to be 21 again.
There's an absolute obsession with youth.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it's the way we're hardwired as human beings. Maybe it's society. But like I said, I wouldn't want to be in my 20s again. And that's, what's it? I don't know who said it, but the quote that was, youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah, I love that.
Because, my knees hurt. and I do need to get to bed at a reasonable hour. And I am
We don't, Phoebe.
I am I'm proudly disgraceful when it comes to how late I stay out sometimes, because I've done a gig and then I'm going out and I've got something professional to do the next day, 25 years as a coach and stuff. And I've always managed those two things. And I think that they feed each other really well. And I wouldn't change that for the world. So I haven't done some of the other things that might have been expected of somebody in their late 40s. But, I really don't care.
Yeah.
Really don't care. And I also got to say that I'm very proud that I have friends and colleagues of all ages, some much older than me, some much younger than me. And I see everybody as an equal to me and me as an equal to them. And I think that these notions, these societal notions of you'll do this by then, and by the time you're this, you really should be slowing down or whatever, kind of separate and segregate us. I learned so much from my friends that are in their 20s and their mid-20s. And I know that I know that with some of them, I, definitely help them with a perspective of my wisdom of being, a few decades into adulthood, that gives them a bit of a chill. It's like, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. Sometimes people need to hear that. Yeah. So, disgraceful, bring it on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, a different perspective as well is that, and I've, when I've had moments where I thought, I should have done that. Why didn't I do that at university? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I have this house in England at this age and settle down and all those different things? But then, if you look at it from this perspective, I wouldn't have done all these other things. So much about, I wouldn't be sitting where I am today, literally talking to you. We wouldn't be doing this podcast probably. So all of these things, this fateful path that you create, whether, my path might be a bit like that, yours might be a bit over here, all those things that you would have missed out on if you had just done what you were supposed to do. And that's not saying that that's right for some people, it's not right for all. It's not right for you, it's not right for me. And, we are in the music world as well, and we're in the, project management and coaching world. And our life, it can get a little bit more challenging. Like this morning, I've had such a big week. This morning, I was exhausted. I said to you, I was like,
It's record day.
Yeah, it's record day. And then we might be at a gig, and the gig finishes at 2 a.m. and we're with all the 20-year-olds, and we're like, right, let's go and have a drink, and let's have that. The music world's a world in itself. And then we might be more tired. Yeah, we might be more tired than the 20-year-olds, but we'll be fine. We'll be
Yeah.
fine. And what we have to bring and give, and that's the whole reason for this podcast series even, is that we've experienced so many different things that I'm so proud of and so excited about, that we can definitely say that we're living life on our terms.
Yeah, 100%.
Wonderful. It's
That
wonderful.
and that reminds me of a question: to Botox or not to Botox? What do you reckon?
Okay, I'm not going to give a yes or no answer here, which you may or may not want. I think yes to Botox if that makes you happy. I have friends that use it because it makes them happy and certain lines were bothering them. I never have. And I don't feel like I would. I've always been quite natural in to a certain respect. I mean, no, by no stretch of the imagination, perfect. But if I suddenly really had something that was bothering me, lines on my face, and it was really bothering me every day, I would totally go and do it. I think you should do what you want when you want to do it.
I once said to a friend who was in the acting world and had been told by many a casting agent and agent, you should get a nose job. And she said, "Oh, I don't know, 3,500 or whatever it was. Should I get a nose job? I might get the work." And I said, "Well, you can either spend 3,500 on the nose job, you can spend 3,500 on the therapy that makes you okay with the nose that you got." You know what I mean? It's
Brilliant.
really take your own path. Personally, I'm all about the natural world. I think that's my yoga studies.
Yeah.
I like the idea of being natural, but I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, I don't look like I used to look, and I do in some circles notice that might mean that people treat me differently, and so there's sort of like an internal resolve and resilience that I need to cultivate, that means that I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
The young ones have made an assumption that I wouldn't want to, so I didn't get the invite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things, there's an internal thing, because we are, I think all of us, every single person, man, woman, trans, gay, straight, all the different skin colors, all of that, the world treats us in a particular way because the
They do.
world can be particularly judgmental. And I think, there's something that I hope for the future, that is, we can let go of those supposed to be expectational kind of judgments and just allow people to be who they are. I think it comes from the psychology of tribes. If you're with your tribe, you are, it's kind of like a human need. You are safe. You need attachment. You need tribe. You need community. We need community as human beings. And I think that, getting a bit political here, but, capitalism puts us into spaces where we see otherness, we see difference as wrong, and that's kind of encouraged, because that means that there's the product you can buy, fix your life with the product. So, there's a lot that we kind of have to sort of combat. And I really do encourage everybody I meet, to the point of them probably going, "Oh, don't mention that in front of Phoebe, because she's going to give us that talk again about live for yourself and do what it is that you feel right, regardless of what you're supposed to, what mom or dad wants you to do, what you think will mean that you can get to the next step of whatever it is you want to do. At the end of the day, we are always just on our own path. That's
Yeah,
just
well,
what
yeah,
it is.
and I think the comparison component needs to be raised here. That
Yeah.
don't, and that really resonated with me when I read something, a meme or whatever. Don't compare yourself to somebody else, whether it's someone of the same gender, race, age, just because they are here and you're not here, or they've done that. Don't compare, because you are on your own journey. And I'm not preaching here. I'm just really stating some things that really resonated with me. Like, yes, Phoebe, we know you are. But I think that it's really important to be on your own path there. And I think, referencing some people here, I love Ricky Gervais, and I'm sure everybody knows Ricky Gervais. And I read something, I think I sent it to you, Phoebe, where he was made redundant. I think he was 37, 38.
Yeah.
And he gave himself 6 months to do some comedy work to see if that would work, not thinking it would actually work. And you know, the rest is history, as they say.
Deep down, he must have known. He
Yeah,
must
but
have
what
had a
he
level
put
of
is,
belief.
we don't know the ins and outs. I mean, I'm not saying that you can suddenly do that and it's just going to work out. You've got to put the work in. That's another thing, is that you only get out what you put in, right?
And sometimes
Are
sometimes you're more
lucky.
privileged than others. And so you
Which
have
is
to
me.
like combat more.
Well, it's a lot easier.
And
We've had that in the music world. It's a lot easier if you know, you and me had both had massive financial backing and family support on certain things. You know, if you're 20 and you cannot work, like we have to work as well. So we have multi-layered careers, which doesn't diminish any of the others. I think that's an important point as well, is that you can be this that you've started in your 20s, but you can also start another venture, career. No longer do you have to be one thing at 18 and that until you retire. But it's okay if you also do that. I know people that have worked with the same organisation for 30 years, 40 years. They are secure. That's what they want. We don't have that security, which can sometimes, I want that, but then we
yeah,
wouldn't be able to do the other things, you know.
yeah. I mean, a really, really good thing a yoga teacher of mine used to say a lot was compare and despair. If you compare, you despair. And
Yeah.
so letting go of that comparison is really important. But then there's what were you just saying about Ricky Gervais? I'm having a dyslexic moment.
That's fine.
Social media is not very
No,
helpful
it's
for
not.
that, because you can doom scroll, and comparison is kind of always there. And I guess that's part of the reason why we're doing this podcast, really, is to put some voices out there that try and combat some of what I would call capitalistic kind of ways of being. Keeping us separate means that we buy stuff, but then also choice is really an important thing. So you're talking about if we had financial backing or whatever when we were younger. I actually know somebody who is 7,000 feet tall. She's a titan. She's brilliant, and she told me the story of and she looks like a model. And she tells the story of how she was told by a modelling agency, yeah, we're really interested in you, but could you lose some weight? This girl does not need to lose weight. And at that point in her life, she went, all right, modelling's not for me, because
Right.
I'd rather, and I can't remember her actual words, but she's like, I'd rather have a beer and a burger
Yeah.
and enjoy my life
Yeah.
than be a model, because that's the standard. So we can, and I think this is something that I've grappled with. I'm doing a master's in songwriting at the moment, and I'm kind of working through some of these things around what I then wanted as opposed to what I now want, because we are ever changing. We only can exist in the now, and the past is a story, and that's all it is. And the future is only possibility unless we let our story tell us what our future's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So actually, if we can only live in the now, which by the way is gone now, and the now, and the now, it's always going, it's
Yeah,
always changing. We are always regenerating and changing.
Yeah.
That in every moment we've got choice about what it is we want. And just because I said when I was 17 that I was gonna, doesn't mean I need to hold myself to that either.
You can change your mind. I say this a lot. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to change direction. You are allowed to do what you want. And just quickly on that social media point, is that social media obviously, was brought about to interconnect people, and it can be a big disconnect. But the comparison thing, I think social media's got a lot to answer for in that, because you look at people's lives and they've got the best life on the planet, and good luck to them. I'm very happy for people.
According to what they put on camera.
Yeah, because you're not going to put on there that you just had an argument or you're divorcing your husband. Generally, you might not, or you might
feel really brave.
Yeah, you might eventually, but as you're going through that, you may not. You just put up the moments you've gone out with your friends, all the pictures, your best gigs.
I look hot today.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't put on the crying moments, which good luck to people that do. I think you should do what you want to do, but that doesn't help the comparison thing. And we're hitting time here, and I think that with all our topics, Phoebe, we could talk more about this. So we're really interested in the listeners to let us know if you want to hear more about this topic. We're here to talk about the things that we are important to us, that experiences can come from. But I just want to end on a bit of a lighter, funnier note, is grey hairs. Grey hairs. Firstly, I can't see any grey hairs. I have friends that have grey hairs, and they spend quite a lot of money on hair dyeing and stuff like that, which is fine. I my mother never had grey hairs, and I've started seeing some grey hairs. I even sent you a message the other day saying, by the way, I've just seen a grey hair. I was like, what? And I'll take you back to a show that I know you don't like, but I loved growing up, was Sex and the City. And I never forget this when Samantha said, don't pluck it, because you pluck one, the rest will come, or something along those lines. Well, I do. Boom.
Plucked it out.
Yeah, I've done it constantly. I'm actually quite enjoying it.
Good.
I'm quite enjoying it. But only a few. But my point, I'm trying to leave us on a positive note here, is one, it's fine to have grey hairs, right? Men, we all love men with grey hair. Why can't we love women with grey hair? If you want to have grey hair, keep it. If you don't, dye it. But one thing I've always wanted to do is dye my hair. And I've never dyed my hair because I've always not wanted to lose the colour. And it's changed throughout the years and it changes in seasons. But now I'm saying, okay, this is the opportunity to dye my hair. That's how I'm taking that. So what's your thoughts to wrap up this wonderful episode, Phoebe?
I like dyeing my hair. That's because I've always, for the last 20 years,
Right.
liked blonde streaks.
Yeah.
They were fashionable, and I had them done, and then they weren't fashionable, and I still had them done, and now they're fashionable again. So I'm like,
Brilliant.
that's cool. I'm just gonna keep the hair. I've had the same hairdresser for 15 years. I love her.
I love it. I love
The
it.
only one that's allowed to touch my hair.
The moral to the story is that if it goes out of fashion, it will come back. So just keep
Totally. Totally. And yes, do join the conversation, guys. LashBackTalks. Put your ideas in the comments. Let us know what you're thinking. And we want to hear from you.
Bye-bye, everybody.